Hello everybody. In our last Talking Pictures we looked at David Henderson, an artist known especially for his lithographs. You may remember that the Hendersons arrived in Otago from Scotland on the Strathallan in January 1858. Well, today we're going to consider another family that came out on the Strathallan in 1858, the Smales. There were actually two branches of the Smale family on board the Strathallan. Andrew and Christina Smale and family would become known as the Black Smales, while Charles and Isabella Smale and their children were known as the Red Smales. Charles Smale, the patriarch of the Red Smales, took up land at Tomahawk, which when Charles passed away in 1865 continued to be developed into a farm by his son Alexander. Alexander had a homestead built there in the late 1870s or early 1880s which still stands today, near the beach which we now know as Smales Beach. While Charles of the Red Smales chose to settle at Tomahawk, Andrew of the Black Smales headed south to scope out land near the mouth of the Mata'o. John Darling, who also brought out his family on the Strathallan, went with him. After much searching, two neighbouring sections were acquired at Inchclutha. They drew lots. John Darling drew a partially cleared section with a Maori whare on it, leaving Andrew Smale with a section that was more densely covered in bush and scrub. The Darlings' property would be called Camera Bank, while the Smales named theirs Mayfield. In 1860, one of Andrew and Christina Smale's sons, Andrew, injured his leg while fencing and eventually passed away from blood poisoning. Daughter Agnes would marry and move away. John would become a mechanical engineer in Dunedin, and Thomas a missionary in what is now Vanuatu. James, William, Robert and George, who was born at Mayfield, would largely remain in the Clutha district. It is said that William was destined to become a doctor, until the Great Flood of 1878 and two smaller floods caused havoc at Inchclutha and prompted a change of plan. Instead, he stayed in Inchclutha and had a house of his own built on the edge of the bush, which he named Hawthornden. He got married in 1880 and settled down to farming and raising a family. William also had a flair for art and frequently travelled up from Inchclutha to attend the Dunedin School of Art. One of his sons would later recall that after studying at the School of Art he continued with his hobby on wet days, had artists to stay, perhaps for a few days, which developed his art. He also recalls his father going off on one tour to the West Coast Sounds and another to the North Island, and returning with full sketchbooks. Proceeds from the sale of some of his pictures were used to help supplement income from farming. William Smale would also become an active member of the Otago Art Society and the Dunedin Public Art Gallery Society. When he passed away in 1929, Percy Sargood, president of the Dunedin Public Art Gallery Society, acknowledged his contribution by saying his death had removed from their midst another very old and valuable working member of the society. That's about it for this episode, except for a short disclaimer. There were two William Smales on the Strathallan, one red and one black. Both would come to reside in the Clutha district. Sometimes they get mixed up. Fingers crossed we've got them straight here. See you next time, and thanks for watching.